Guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to discuss the 3 benefits of having a shorter backswing and 3 different ways to actually shorten your backswing so that you don't lose power. Stick around, a little bonus content at the end to gain power on this as well. So the first thing we have to discuss is the 3 benefits of having a shorter backswing. The first is you don't really get off plane much, so because your hands don't go above your shoulder line, you don't access parts of your shoulder capsule that you normally would, which would require you to go up and down. Thus, we tend to stay on plane. As we go up, you'll notice my plane changes. But if we stay here, club's in front of me, the plane is perfect and essentially are just a more consistent ball striker. This is part of the reason why you see guys on tour that hit wedge shots. They usually go to here and there because they really don't want to engage that full shoulder mobility. The second reason why you need a shorter backswing if you're looking for consistency is pretty simple. It increases your use of big muscles in the body. In other words, you tend to not use a lot of arms or a lot of hands to hit the golf ball. And the reason for that being is because in order to generate speed, if you have a shorter backswing, you can't use your hands because you just don't have a big enough arc to increase your acceleration as you're coming through. So what ends up happening is you use a lot more mass, lower body glutes, and core to fire at the ball, along with your chest and your back, which again makes you a little more consistent. So if you're looking for consistency, this is a great way to go. And then thirdly, probably the most important thing about having a shorter backswing that makes you consistent is that you're more stable. It's hard for you to get off balance if your arms don't go above or around your body outside of your center of gravity. So if we're taking our arms and we're moving them outside of our center of gravity, much like Justin Thomas with high hands or Xander Schauffele, there are certain things we have to do to get things back in sync before we can connect the dots, sync up, and hit the ball solid. So if you're looking for a more consistent golf swing and you think a shorter backswing is the way to go, those are 3 great benefits to it. So let's talk about how to do it. So those of you that have seen my golf swing before, that is a much shorter version of the golf swing. I learned how to do that by watching Doug Sanders, who is probably the original short swing guy on tour. He played back in the 70s, or a pretty modern guy I would say would be your John Rahm types. Keep the swing very short, very compact, and use a lot of body speed to create and generate acceleration through the strike. So how did I shorten my backswing there? Well, let's talk about the first of 3 ways to do it. Number 1 is to tighten the grip on the last 3 fingers. This will create a line through your arm that essentially locks your armpit in. Now, Bryson DeChambeau talks about this. If you lock your armpit and you tighten these 3 fingers, your body can only do so much. The club can only get so far away from you. So let's just see what that looks like in comparison to another technique I'll show you in a moment. So not too bad there. But sometimes, let's say we've been practicing a lot, or maybe we're just a little fatigued. That's not always going to work, and the club's still going to get away from you. So what's the way that I think Doug Sanders did it, and maybe even John Rahm, that is probably more consistent day to day? Well, that's widening your stance. And if you noticed, the shortest swings on earth have the widest stances. The reason for that being is because you can't turn if your hips are immobilized. So if you look at John Rahm, his feet actually kind of point this direction, and he has very wide stance. Probably for his height, which is easily 6'2", I would say his stance is double wide what you would see a normal tour player use. So let's see what that looks like in comparison to locking down those last 3 fingers, which is a Trevino drill. Hogan as well. So nice wide stance here. Very nice. So that's kind of like a Mo Norman feeling swing, where there's just nowhere for the body to go. There's not a whole lot of turn, so the club kind of stays in a straight line. And, you know, again, it maintains your arc so you don't really get off plane that bad. But there's another way to do it that a lot of people don't talk about, but you see the drill all the time. And that's essentially taking the towel like so, or the old Hogan, you know, you wrap a belt around your waist and stick your arms in it, and you swing the club like this. So the idea behind that is just to stay connected. I personally hate that drill. What I like far more is taking 2 head covers. Because this way, I have the ability to manage how much pressure I want in each armpit. So now, when we have 2 head covers, if I want this back head cover to drop, that's fine. It can drop. But if that back towel drops and you go to hit the ball, you're going to hit the towel and it's going to hurt. Same thing with the front head cover. If I get to here and I'm okay with it dropping, it's never going to get in my way when I'm making a golf swing. The key with having both armpits pressurized is that it forces your shoulder capsule to stay on plane. So let's just see what that looks like if we were to put both head covers under our armpits and swing the golf club. Yep, very thin there. Tough drill, you know, like I'd probably have to swing about half the speed I normally would. But as you can see, it shortens the swing. But for me, I'm a field player. I've played sports my whole life. All you gotta do is tell me to do something and I can do it. So let's see what it looks like if I'm just focused on the intention of keeping my armpits close to my body. I should say keeping my elbows close to my body. Okay, a little longer swing, but more wrist long, not arm long. So very controlled. And as you can see, all 3 methods work great, but we still have a conundrum. How do we get our power back once we shorten our swing, because we've essentially shortened our arc? So getting power in a shorter swing is actually not as hard as most people think. We have 2 main levers, your left arm and then your upper body as attached to your spine, driven by your lower body to create speed. So the lower body leads the upper body, which then leads the arm, which then creates leverage for us to release the golf club. Okay? Within each segment of our body, we have leverage points. The left hip being your lower body leverage point, your left shoulder being your upper body leverage point, right? So left hip, left shoulder, and then your left hand being the final leverage point, where the club then becomes the or the apparatus, fulcrum being here, club head being mass, and then the opposing force being your body pulling against that mass. Okay? So in all of the short swings I've ever seen, the best way to generate power is by utilizing the lower body. So what I like to do when I'm trying to shorten somebody's swing is I like to add all 3 elements together, but I like to drive it with the lower body. Okay? So for instance, I'll take a student and they'll have a very armsy swing, their elbows break, all these types of things. And I'll tell them, just widen your stance. Once you start with this and you start widening your stance, and I make them go wide, guys, about as wide as you can get, you start to realize just how out of control your arms are. And when you start doing that, you're going to hit a lot of thin shots, a lot of fat shots. It's going to be ugly. But what it'll teach you is how to engage the body as a unit. So first, I want you to start, when we're doing this, I want you to start widening your stance so that you don't lose speed. Don't mess with your grip. Don't mess with your armpit pressures. Just widen your stance. Let's hit one with a wide stance, ridiculously wide. And I want you to pay attention to how connected my body has to stay in order to do this. So this is unbelievably wide. I would never actually swing like this, but for these intended purposes, you get to see how connected the body stays. And notice I looked a lot like Mo Norman. You get a lot of leg action in there. So that's how I want you to start. From there, if you get pretty comfortable with that, the second phase is then we're going to tighten our grip right back here. What'll happen is that'll instinctively, it'll biomechanically tighten this entire line all the way to your armpit. You don't have to think about tightening up your left armpit. If you tighten that grip up enough, just the last 3 fingers of the left hand, what'll happen is you'll stay connected because the club can't get away from you. So now we have a wide stance, nice tight left hand grip, last 3 fingers only. From there, we're going to hit the ball without using hardly any arms at all. Notice the strike pattern is just super solid too. Again, because I'm not getting off plane. It's so much easier to square the club face. Jay, you said, hey, you're going to tell me I get the speed back. We haven't even come close. Well, that's the next step. So now that you've got the tight fingers, your armpits will start to feel connected. You're not even going to have to think about this. And then from there, you're going to widen your stance, right? But you're going to bring it back in just a little bit. Okay? And this is where everything's going to come together. So you felt a wide stance. You've hit a few balls like this. You've hit balls like this with a tight grip. Now all I want you to do is bring your stance back to just wider than shoulder width. So if this is my shoulder, I just want the heels just outside your shoulders. Okay? Then from there, I don't want you to worry about the grip or any of that. I just want you to go ahead and hit the ball as you normally would. And voila, there's your power back, there's your speed. Because essentially what we've done is we've shortened your swing, but shortened it for you. So you don't have to sit there and, well, I don't look like John Rahm. Yeah, but you're controlling the ball now. This is the 3-step process to shorten your backswing. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave some comments, likes, questions. I know it's not going to happen overnight, so be patient, guys. Shortening the swing is it's a long process, and again, it takes 6 weeks for a PGA Tour pro to move his swing or her swing 1 millimeter. So be patient. Hit me up. I'm here. Thanks for watching.